I want to talk to you guys about something that I think we've all struggled with from time to time in our business journey, and that is, when is it the right time to let someone go? In terms of a team member that may not be a good fit, may be underperforming, there might be a number of things going on where your gut has just started to go, I really don't feel like this person is the right person for the business. I was having a conversation with a salon owner yesterday who was talking about, and to be honest, this client had long-standing issues with this team member, very long-standing. Lots of poor behaviours, poor leadership. It's almost like the team member just really didn't want to be there, or was going through these waves of emotional turmoil that were playing out in the work environment and then obviously impacting on everyone else's experience, which is what happens. And I've had a lot of conversations with this business owner, and there's been times where she's been really certain, that's it, we're having the conversation, the team member's exiting, and then there's been other times where she's been less certain of that. Anyway, so yesterday was one of those times where she was less certain. Previous to that, she had actually decided that enough was enough, and she was going to have that termination conversation, or moving on, or deselection, whatever you want to call it. And so I honestly was probably a bit surprised, or surprised but not surprised, let's put it, when she came to her coaching session yesterday and said, no, I haven't told the team member to move on, and this is the reason why. So what she outlined was a change in attitude from the team member. So the team member previously had been very argumentative, resistant, not interested, I suppose, in the feedback that they were being provided. And this time round, the client said, well, the team member was really open for the first time ever. I was getting some acknowledgement. I was getting agreement that things will be different. I was getting just a different attitude from the team member, right? And what happened as a result of that change in attitude was then it really made it difficult for that client to have the kind of termination conversation or the moving on or whatever you want to call it, because of the change in attitude that she'd observed. Now, this is tricky because I feel like fundamentally there's something inside of us all that want to see the good, that want to see the optimistic, that want to see the, particularly when we have good long-standing relationships with our team members, right? We want to believe, we really do, that they're going to be able to do what they say that they're going to do and follow through on that. So I stood in appreciation, obviously, for her decision. And, my coaching is not about telling people what to do or what they should be doing. Or she said to me, actually goes, I think you're going to tell me off. And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I don't tell people off for their decision making. I provide different perspectives, but ultimately it's your choice, So what we concluded was that we can only measure behaviours, right? And this is the learning that I want you to take away from this, in that, and it's interesting because I feel like this was the same when I was having some recruitment-based conversations the other day with another client. So what people say versus what people do can be completely different. And what I want you to think about is I want you to measure the what people do, not what they say. Right? It's the same as in recruitment. When you're doing an interview, people say a lot of things, don't they? And then we get them in, and then we find out along the journey that, hang on a minute, they've said all of these things. I'm a little bit confused. None of that is actually playing out in terms of behaviour, So, and not just, sorry, fell down then. I'm back. And not just behaviour in terms of once they get into the role. But in recruitment, you've got an opportunity to get some more information around behavioural examples. So tell me about a time when, rather than just asking, tell me about your strengths in the role. It's much more robust to ask someone to give you an example of a time when, of a behaviour, than it is just to ask them a straight out question that they can obviously curate and make pretty and put a little bow on it and put it in front of you, and it's not necessarily the truth, right? So in the performance space, it's about taking the commitment, the words, the attitude very much at a superficial level, and really monitoring and observing the behavioural changes that you are looking for in making that decision as to whether someone is going to be, able to turn it around and recommit to the business and the mission and what you're trying to achieve. And not just for a small period of time, because that's what happens too, right? I'm going to do it. And they have a great couple of weeks. And then on the third week, we're back to the drawing board, right? So I think that it's first and foremost, let's measure the behaviour, okay? Second of all, the behaviour needs to be sustained, right? Because who wants to keep having these conversations? Like literally this poor client, I feel like she's had this conversation about 15 times, but this is her journey, right? This is her learning, this is her experience. And I just need to nurture that process for her, and provide support. But what I would say, and this is what I said to her, is we need to measure the behaviour, not the words. And we need to make sure that there is a consistency to that, right? Because I'm sure you don't want to keep having this conversation, which she didn't, right? And knowing when we need to stop having the conversations. So I hope that helps. If you're feeling a little bit stuck with team members saying one thing and then behaviours not being aligned, there's a problem there, right? And I always encourage you to measure the behaviours over the words.